Hello and welcome to another episode of Potential. And today I am here with Rob Watson from, Essexy, London area of the UK. And at the age of 33, Rob already has 3 flourishing businesses in the dog field. I always feel a bit weird calling it the dog field because it automatically makes me think of the fact that I walk my dogs in fields. It doesn't sound the same, but the word sector doesn't seem to appeal to me either. So we'll stick with 3 businesses in the dog field, and they're all doing really, really well. One of them is actually quite new, but even broken onto the scene with a really good USP. So I'm sure Rob can tell us more about it in a minute. But so hi, Rob. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Caroline.
And what I'm hoping you can share with us throughout the time that we spend today is really some sort of ideas on how you went about building this canine business empire and what it's meant for you really as well. And because we very often think that if we're an entrepreneur, we're going to have a bit more perhaps freedom than we had within our 9-to-5 more matrixy business. But to be honest with you guys, it's taken me and Rob quite a while to pin down, to actually interview. So time-wise, this is something we can talk about, I'm sure. How do you kind of manage your time within these 3 businesses?
Yeah, it's not easy at the minute. It's I'm definitely trying to put through a more structured schedule, and we're trying to work out to have exact days that I can focus on particular projects. But realistically, does that translate to the real world? No, not always. Something you just have to deal with stuff as it comes up, and it's free time isn't a thing anymore.
Free time. They become your life almost. Your hobby turns into your life in a sense.
Massively. But it's a good thing. It means that your quality of life gets better because you're embracing things that you love to do. We wouldn't be doing it. We wouldn't choose this career path if it wasn't something that we were passionate about and we cared about. So yeah, it's not, that's not a bad thing by any stretch.
Yeah. So tell us from the beginning, what did you start with and what made you want to kind of be in this field?
I suppose the shops were where we started. The first shop, it was a little bit incidental. We'd always had dogs. Dogs were something that were a big part of my life anyway. And we ended up with an opportunity to open a shop. And we knew the problems that we had ourselves sourcing good quality products. And we had an opportunity, and it was a little bit, I suppose, luck more than judgment to get that ball rolling. I'd been in other careers that weren't grabbing me, and they were making that my work life wasn't that enjoyable. And I think you get to a stage where it doesn't matter what you're earning, you're always going to actually want a bit of quality of life in your work. Everyone wants a job that they love doing, and I think most people in our field actually love doing their job.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Well, this is the thing, and I think ultimately it's all about meeting dogs for me.
Yeah.
And actually over time it has really massively become about meeting the owners as well. You think you go in this for the dogs, but really the people are what make it, I find.
Massively. Yeah, hugely. Yeah. I mean, everyone always says to me when anyone meets me in the shop, they say, "You've got the best job in the world." I try and assure them it's not quite as simple as just cuddling puppies all day, every day, but I'm not sure they believe me. But dealing with the owners is actually a very enjoyable side of it. At the end of the day, I always think if you've got it in you, if you've got the empathy to care for an animal, you're already a pretty good person. So we deal with quite a nice cross sector.
Mm-hmm. So it was sort of 4 to 5 years ago you opened your first pet store or pet shop, and sort of what size was it and where was it?
Which is still there now. We're just outside Romford, in a little sub-town called Gidea Park. We had the shop's realistically only about 800 square foot, so it's not tiny, but it's not massive. And when we first opened it, we had a little bit of it as office space, but we got a lot of demand for grooming, so my office space went. And we had to make sure we had a good quality groomer. So it's not a huge shop by any stretch, and we started on very, very modest budget, very modest. So yeah, it wasn't like £1 million operation day one. We had to start from very humble beginnings with it.
Yeah. So I'm guessing, I mean, you know, if people are sort of considering this kind of thing, I'm guessing you stumbled across the venue and you wanted to, you must have been lucky enough to get the contract on the venue where the shop.
What I would say with our actual premises, sorry, I've got notifications going off on my computer. I'm trying to silence. With our premises, it was something that I'd actually already had from previous business venture, and we had it as an office space. So by no stretch of the imagination were we in a prime location. It was a unit that was taken to be used as an office. And obviously that put us in very much a B location, where it was on a side street in a small town. So we had to straight away, it was more repurposing our office. There was a lot of factors behind it and how we ended up in it. Mm-hmm. So we weren't fortunate enough in a way to be in a position that we could select it. When we chose to go down the path we did the maths on it, and we said it's actually quite an okay location. For grooming, for the food that we were planning on selling. It made sense that we weren't on a high street. So it ticked boxes on that. So it was, like I say, it was a little bit repurposed, but yeah, we made it work.
Yeah, so I'm guessing because you were doing the more natural side of food, people were seeking you out as such.
Yeah, very much. I mean, obviously, I think there's certain shops that need to be on a high street. I always feel if you're in a B location, that can work just as well, if not better, if you've got a reason for people to go to you. Yes. Reason to go out their way. So if you have that unique product, being in a B location can actually be a benefit, because a lot of the time parking can be easier, and general access for taking dogs. A lot of people don't want to take their dogs to a high street. So being in the B location, it made sense like that. And I think it just means you have to shout a little bit louder about what you're doing, because people aren't going to find you so much incidentally. So we just had to shout that bit louder and make sure we had a clear USP and we had a reason for people to come to us. I think that was the key really with it.
So yeah, visibility. I mean, that's come up a lot in the Potential Summit so far. I mean, what did you do back then for visibility? I suppose it was just the brink of Facebook's turn of everything, wasn't it?
Yeah, Facebook. I'll be honest with you, Facebook really, really helped us. It was huge for us day one. It made it quite an interesting study as well, though, because we could easily hit people all over the country, but it made it a little bit more difficult narrowing it down. And I mean, we had phone calls from people wanting to drive from Scotland down to Essex, but wow. people in the next road were saying, "Oh, how long have you been here?" And we still get that now. We still get people 2 roads away not knowing that we're there. So we've leafleted them, we've got signs out in the street, but Facebook enabled us to hit a lot of people very cost effectively. Not so much anymore, I would say, but at that time Facebook was extremely powerful.
So your USP was offering natural food. Did you have a freezer at the time with raw food?
Yeah, we had a freezer. Was the very first thing that went into that shop. When we decided that we were going to do it, we'd got on the pathway from illnesses with the previous dog. We had a bulldog. She was very unwell, and this was well before the shops. And she got very unwell, and she was losing coat, and it was literally falling out in chunks. And the vets local to us, a very well respected vet, who obviously I won't name, but the vets local to us were using her essentially as a pincushion and just trying anything because they couldn't narrow it down. And it was actually when me and my younger brother, who incidentally suffers with a lot of allergies, he said we need to look into this more, because it's clearly not just unknown infection. And we got to the stage where we had a vet say to us, well, she's a bulldog, she's 5 years old, I think you've got to accept that she's coming towards the end of her life. that rung a massive alarm bell, and you just went, no, this and that for us was probably the turning point though. That was us when we said, no, I'm not accepting this. I'm not going to accept that. I'm not. And I'm going back quite a few years now, and there wasn't the traction that we've got at the minute. And we're getting more and more in the raw world. And we literally had to go and do the research for ourselves and work out about processed animal proteins that were doing her no good. And literally they'd been trying for months to try and get these infections under control. She had sores weeping on her body and constant smell of yeast, and she was in a horrible state. We changed her to a natural diet, and literally within weeks the sores were clearing up. It was out of her system, and within 2 to 3 months she was back to years before. She had her health back, and she had her coat back, and it was full. And unfortunately we lost her just shy of 12 years old, so it's pretty good age for a bulldog really at the end of it, and after what she'd been through. So when we decided to open the shop, that was the key for us. We've got to be doing this. We need to be telling people this message, because people just don't know it. Sorry, excuse my phone.
All right. That's all right.
It was key for us to be spreading this message and spreading the awareness of this, because it's just not visible enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so like many of us, your dog was your inspiration really to start the business.
Massively, yeah, hugely. And we always look back, and she was one of 2 bulldogs we had at the time, and we always say if it wasn't for them, we would never have been on this path. I'd have probably still been selling cars, but yeah, we wouldn't have been on this pathway without them.
Yeah. So out of interest, what did the vet think?
What did the vet think? Well, the particular vet are now massive raw feeding advocates, which to anyone in this area will point out to probably who it is. But they made some big changes themselves a few years ago and went very much to raw feeding. So it's a pathway that was sort of followed. So I can't say that they really put up too much opposition in the end. Well, let's hope Tiddy gave them a little bit of inspiration as well to do it.
Well, potentially, yeah, definitely. So going back to the shop.
Yes.
Somebody's thinking of I don't know, even online shops, you know, what are the sort of some of the products that you would think like absolutely, you know, the demand, the markup, you know, that kind of thing of, you know, what would you say people should go for?
I mean, we split our products quite sort of down the middle really. We do food, we do treats. We made a very, very clear point that when we first opened, we weren't going to sell rawhide. We weren't going to sell these cheap Chinese imported treats. Not knocking anyone importing treats from China, but we weren't going to do that. We said we wanted natural products in there. The downside of being natural, your margin isn't there. It's not the same. But that's the labour of love on it. That's the bit that's passionate. And when you can actually change people's lives with them, that is when it is a labour of love. It's that's hard work for what it is, but it keeps people coming in. That's the reality of it. It gives you your regular customer base. For us, we have a lot of joy in making sure we have a different product, a unique product. And that is what I always say. You've got to have something that people can't go and find somewhere else, which is instantly how we then get into having our own brand and manufacturing ourselves. As much you're always going to sell your standard dog toys. These are your easy sales. That's the easy business. But what are you going to have on your shelf that makes someone look in your window and want to come in your shop? I think to an extent, people are sort of wary of independence. They automatically assume we're going to be more expensive. They're going to assume that our products aren't as nice as somewhere else, or aren't the same quality because we're an independent. We've got to make sure that we have that pull to get people in through the door. For me, we sell a lot of beds. Beds they take up a lot of space, so they're a bit of a nuisance that way. But we make sure we have bed lines that people want, people desire. And I think there's a big change coming in this industry. I think even for the smaller dogs, we've gone from a market where people used to buy their beds in pink or blue for the smaller dogs. It was very much boy or girl, let's treat your dog like a baby. Well, the market's changing, and it's changing quickly. People are people are getting dogs at a different point in life. They're getting dogs for different reasons. They're now part of the family, which a dog isn't just your prized possession you carry around, or it's not something that lives in the garden anymore. They're more and more part of the family. So we always try and say, make sure you've got something that fits in with that, something that fits in with the house. We're not treating it every time now like a little princess.
Yes.
We want something to be a part of the family and to blend in. So that's why we have a lot of joy with beds, to make it part of the furniture.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So you're looking at what potentially is even the decor changes. You know, if people are into minimalist decor in their home, they're going to want a dog bed that matches it.
It's exactly that. And it's not, I think people used to have a little space put aside for the dog like you would for your kids, and that's the kids. It's not that anymore. It is with the decor changes, like you're saying, that the change in fashion and the change in trends. And as a brand, when we're launching new beds, we're not looking at what do dogs want, as in the style, what do we put for a dog. We look at the furniture demands that people are, what sofas are people buying, what style furniture are people putting into their house, and we try and go down them lines. It's incorporating with the family more than ever.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Yeah, it's brilliant. So how many shops do you have now? Is it the 2?
At the minute it's 2. Yeah, there's a third one joining as part of the team soon, but that's brand new information, that one. So yeah, stay tuned.
Hot off the press. Yeah. The poorest. Okay, so what made you go from 1 to 2 shops, and how did you go about that?
It was something that we always wanted to do. We feel our brand as Dogaholic, we've got quite a unique angle. We have quite a unique product selection for a lot of it, and we get asked a lot, and we have a lot of people drive a long way to come to our shops, and we get asked quite often, can you open a shop here, can you open a shop there? So it was always, once we realized quite this industry that we were in and the potential of it, we knew it was something that we wanted to do. And three shops even now is by no means the end. We want to be able to offer, to me, when we're offering these products, is about offering value for money. Still, it doesn't matter how much you actually put on the price label. It's all about value for money for the consumer. And we realised we have quite a unique product for that. So it was always about spreading that and being able to do more of it. And even from a personal point of view, having the Dogaholic name on the landscape, it's something we're really proud of. Yeah. So we decided for a long time we wanted to do it, but it was about finding the right location, because the first time around we had to work backwards a little bit and accommodate for the location and work around it. Second time around, we knew that we wanted to have the pick. We wanted to be able to make sure that we had what we felt was the ideal location for it. And yeah, it was a bit of a perfect storm. We had a lot of things come together at the same time that we needed to. And sometimes these things, I think fate plays its part. You can only control it so much, and the right locations only come along at the wrong time sometimes. So you've got to make sure you're ready to deal with it when it happens. To go from 1 shop to 2 it's a big learning curve. It's very easy to control your stock when you have 1 shop. It's very easy if you can be there every day, you know what you're selling. You know, when you now start splitting that between 2 shops, you've got to make sure that you've got great people on your side. It's not something you can do on your own, and valuing your staff and looking after them as well is essential. Without them, you can't do it. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to make, actually. Yeah.
It's I think it's one of those things. I believe we're in a day and age where, in companies that I've worked for previously, staff are something that are very easily replaceable. You're just a number to these big companies, and that if you don't fall in line, or if you have any expectations above and beyond what they're telling you to do, no, we'll replace you. And I've been in that environment. I felt very undervalued as a staff member, and for me, I mean, it's very key for me that my staff would never ever feel that way. And when we built the grooming into our Gidea Park shop, for me, trying to make sure it was a a beautiful environment for the girls there as well, for the dogs. I don't want staff that don't want to be there, and as part of that, they can support me to grow Dogaholic. I think it's about look, you're only as good as your staff. You can't be in more places at one time. You can only be one place. So to have good staff that are representing your brand and your company is essential. And at the end of the day, if you look after them, they will look after you back, and they believe in what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the new store, I'm wondering if this is something, it's an existing store that you're taking on, is it?
Yeah, in a way it is. Yeah, it's been there for a little while. I mean, our second shop was previously one of our competitors that ended up closing down. And I mean, when we took that on, I knew the location and I knew it'd be prime for what we offer. But the shop had closed down, and when I approached the landlord about taking it on, he was very clear that he didn't want another dog business in there. He was very clear in, it hasn't worked once, it's not going to work again. So no, and I ended up actually writing him a solid page of A4 writing as a pitch and explaining why he was wrong. And yeah, it was I detailed what we do. I detailed what we would do differently. And I actually had a phone call from him, and he said, you were 5th on the list of people I was looking at until I got your letter. And he said it put you to the top. He realized that we were very passionate about what we do. And I think this industry, I think a lot of some people come to it not realizing I think they see it as being cuddling puppies, and it is hard work. It is hard work, but it's very, very rewarding work if you get it right. And I think he was wary that we just saw it as a fun thing because it's a nice industry. But yeah, we showed him samples of our products. We showed him what we do. We showed him our previous shop and what we offer. So that one was, like I say, that was a previous rival of ours. And the new one, yeah, it's another rival, but we're going into that in a slightly different state. Simone has actually approached us and said they were looking to retire. And for them, it was key. It's a business that they've nurtured for a lot of years. And for them, it was key that it didn't go into the wrong hands. They didn't want to see it just end up closing down or end up with a poorer quality product in there. And they came to us and they said, look, we know you as a company. We know you as a brand as well. And we feel you're very well placed to actually take this on and run with it. So we are fortunate in that way. And they were very much wanting to work with us as well. So it's a really exciting opportunity. We're really excited about this.
Yeah, it sounds it actually. In fact, there's a lot of self-belief going on here, which is fantastic. You know, this resolve that you seem to have from the beginning that this is the way it's going to be, and then being able to, again, but it taps into visibility where you've actually stood up and said, well, hang on a minute, no, this can work, and we're gonna really show you how. You know, some people might go into more self-doubt, or maybe it is, you know, not going to work with two shops selling the same product, you know, near each other. But you didn't do that. You really stepped up. So what do you think gives you that kind of resolve and that kind of determination?
Don't get me wrong. I still have days, or I have nights. Some days you get out the wrong side of bed and you go, well, why am I doing it? What's it worth? But I think it is about resolve, because there will inevitably be knockbacks. Like I said, on our second shop, we approached the landlord and he categorically told me no. And no, I'm not having that. I think even the idea the shops have got the same products, we even then, that goes down to self-belief. It was more the belief that, no, I have the products that everyone wants. I'm trying to make it easy. That was a bit of a key for us on that. It wasn't, I didn't see, and the new shop that we're taking on is very close in location to the other one. But again, to my view, we're making it more convenient for people. Yeah. But yeah, it is about resolving. It is about digging in when you think it's easier to give up. There's always going to be days, and personally, that we're in a bit of a sticky time with the brand. We've had a lot of setbacks this winter, and that's been established now for nearly 4 years. And it doesn't mean necessarily things get easier. You're still going to have these setbacks, and you're always going to have the time that you think it would be easier just to down tools. But that's normal. That's normal. But it's about even every now and again, we all have to take that day where we take a step back and we go, no, I just need to compose myself and get my thoughts back together, and then we'll go again tomorrow. And it's about getting up every day and starting the fight again, because it's always going to be a fight if you're starting a business on your own. It's always going to be a fight. It doesn't matter what field you're in.
Yeah, well, it's realigning yourself when you take that time. Realign yourself with why you did this. And also, it sounds like you're quite good as well at kind of switching things around, because like you were saying, you could have took the option, or same products, very similar place, will there be the business, but you took the other way of looking at it, where with the glass half full rather than the glass half empty. So that's an admirable quality, that people really can nurture in themselves when they're doing something.
Massively. Oh, you've got to find your reason why you're different. Now, I'm not saying our formula would work in different locations or other parts of the country. I wouldn't say selling the products that we sell would work in every other part of the country, because we're specific to our areas as well. Even down to the types of breeds that we have come in would be different to other parts of the country. Yeah. But I mean, I always say that there's easy ways of running a shop. There are easier ways of doing it. If you want to sign up to one of the big boy wholesalers and have your set products coming in as you sell them through your EPOS system, it can be done. But then why are you going to stand up from someone else who has a pet shop down the road? Where's your USP? Because if you're selling stuff that's readily available to every other shop, it's readily available in every other shop. And yeah, it's as much as anything, I think, about taking what you view as a problem and always trying to make the positive out of it, always trying to spin it. And that's how our shop started in the first place. We had an issue and we had to grow, and it ended up taking over my other businesses, to the extent that we actually sold off assets from other businesses to help fund this, because we knew straight away being able to mix something that you love, like you care of your animals, with your career was a great opportunity. Yeah.
So moving on to the other business, your ProRaw. I mean, I can see why you started it, because it's the passion behind sharing what's happened with your previous dog as well, and ways around that. But it is a different leap in a sense to having, you've had to completely create these products. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, ProRaw is something that I suppose was an idea in my mind for a long time. Just because it's only just come into the fore now and we're in a position to be able to do it. I would have loved to have done it years ago, but it started as I mentioned, the whole raw journey with my bulldog, but then a few years ago a family pet also had a lot of health issues. And again, now we started talking about not just this one size fits all idea. And I always try and say this to my customers: raw feeding isn't one size fits all. We have people that come in and go, oh no, I once tried raw, my dog didn't like it. And we always have to say, yeah, but it's not one size fits all. Maybe that protein didn't agree with your dog. Maybe your dog didn't agree with that protein that you were using. And when we had these health issues, we had in the family a Maltese Terrier, and she had a liver shunt. And so now we're talking actual bigger problems, and to try and get her symptoms down to a minimum. It was about trying to actually improve her quality of life. And now we then start talking about the smaller steps on this raw journey, and we start talking about actually how we get in this up. And for me at that point, it was again, I think even people who were feeding raw, the minute there's a health problem coming and they go to their vet and we've now got to go to a prescription diet, I felt these people were being left a little bit high and dry, and they were making actually backward steps when they really needed to be making forward steps. So ProRaw as a concept has been in my head for a while, but I knew it was something that, even through other commitments, I didn't have the time to do or the time to commit to it that it deserved. And I ended up speaking with Sam Swift from Proflax. We'd sold Proflax as a product in the shop, and we'd had really good results from it, and I was aware of her. And for me, trying to be able to give the herbal input into the food, it wasn't an area of expertise for me by any stretch, and I knew this wasn't something I could do on my own. So I approached Sam about it, and I said, look, this is my concept, this is what I want to do, and I think there's a lot of people out there that it actually fits perfectly. It was a case of heads down and trying to get to work this product out really quickly. I mean, at this stage, we're still not quite launched yet. We're really close. We're within a week or so away. It's the final bits that we're waiting on now. But the general feedback so far has been amazing, and we managed to get enough together to showcase at Crufts. And the feedback was great. And we're meeting a lot of people that are sort of, the response is more, it's about time. It's about time that this happened, and that's amazing for us, because we really feel we're on the verge of a big change here, and this is the next step in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as someone who's been a nutritional consultant, I can tell you it is a very, very good idea. It's almost a weight off someone like myself's job, because you've got products there that match a dog's actual ailments, you know, so it's easier in a sense. I mean, one thing I found working as a nutrition consultant is you don't just get Mrs. Jones who wants to switch her dog onto raw. She's been into a shop like yours. What you get as a nutrition consultant is people with sick dogs, you know, and you really have to have strong belief in what you're doing and your knowledge, you know, that you can really help these dogs. And sometimes, I must admit, it's not something I've wanted to do, and I've passed them on to people like Vince the vet or to Nick Thompson, you know, and I've said, you know, this dog has got, you know, end-stage kidney disease, owner wants to swap the diet, you know, I'm not prepared to do this. I want, you know, I want it to work. Or like if they've got a food like, you know, one of your ailment foods. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant idea.
It is that, and don't get me wrong, we're not trying to take jobs away from vets. We're not trying to do that, and we don't want to be doing that. Our product, we want it to be able to support vets, because we feel a lot of the time, and even Nick, we had a lot of consultations with him when we had the Maltese Terrier, and Nick was a huge help, and Nick was a huge help in trying to tailor her diet, because it got to the stage where I said, this is beyond my pay grade, this one. We need we need someone here who really knows what they're doing. And we were fortunate enough to get feedback from Jean Dodds as well, which was a huge coup for us, really, and me as someone who's got Jean's books, as well as I've got your books, Caroline. As someone who's got Jean's books, it was amazing. And we were saying, why is this information so hard to find? And if I wasn't in the industry I was in, and I didn't have the contacts that I have, I would have struggled to find it.
Yeah.
And that for us, and Pro Raw is, as much as anything, a product to help vets. It's to give them that option. So it's not a case of sending your. We live in an instant gratification day and age, and we live in a day and age where people want the easy solution. Now, the easy solution up until now has always been not necessarily a good one. And when we came away from the consultations with Nick, the information was great, but we then, as a family, had to put this together and had to put this product together and source the ingredients separately. As much as we would do that, realistically, not everyone's going to take this step, and not everyone's going to do this. And at the end of the day, this comes down to the health of the animal first and foremost, and to try and make these products ideal that someone can buy them off the shelf. Their vet can actually say to them, this is the diet that you need, and it gives the vet another option. So your vet isn't then stuck between a rock and a hard place of going, well, do I spend the time and actually where's the right product on the raw side of things, when some of the other big boys have got a product that has on it a kidney product or a liver product that we know isn't necessarily the ideal solution. We want to be able to have that option to give to vets to support them. And as much as anything, we want to be educating vets with it as well, and giving them the full information on why this product is better. I mean, personally, it's a bit of a sticking point for me that I get a little bit fed up with people saying this is the right solution. Why is that the right solution? Because what you're saying to me doesn't make sense. And we had vets telling us things about what we were doing to try and support this Maltese Terrier with Nick's help, and the decisions we were making, they were telling that's completely wrong. But the minute you ask them why that's wrong, they don't have an answer for you. And I feel so many people in the general public just their answer. You say, well, so why are you feeding this? Oh, that's what the vet said is right. That we want to get beyond that stage, and we want to be. It's about educating people, and we want to provide this product that can support vets and make their job easier. At the end of the day, everyone becomes a vet for their own reason, but no one wants to see sick animals. And if we can support them and we can make their job easier by making the animals' health that little bit better, that's really what it's all about. We're not trying to replace the vet. We're trying to support them.
Absolutely, yeah. So for people who perhaps are thinking about starting their own raw feeding brand,
don't do it.
You just got the competition now.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, like I'm sure there's going to be people out there who've already done that and are looking for some support, advice, tips, or thinking about doing it, you know. But how do you go about getting this kind of product to market? Because to me, it seems like an extreme product to suddenly come up with. You know, having worked in the industry, I know what the microbiological back has to be and how you have to do testing. And, you know, it seems like quite a big thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I would always say with any new product, again, we go back to having your USP. Now, we've had to have, obviously, as Pro Raw, our tagline is we're a veterinary optimized raw product. So that's not something we can just stick on there. That's a lot of consultations and a lot of meetings to make sure we get these formulations right. And there's been a lot of test stages with them and a lot of variations on these products to make sure we're getting it right. And research and everything, and because there is a lot of conflicting information out there as well. But you've got to know what you've got to know what you're making your product for. At the end of the day, there's a lot of similar products out there. Now, if that's your line and you want to be part of that, then that's great. If you've got your market and you want to sell to that market, that's great. And you can do your research and you can read your books and you can balance your diet. And there's a lot of good information out there, and it's getting better. The information's getting better. I think you've got to work out where you want to sit in this marketplace. You've got to work out why is yours going to be different? Why would I buy that product over X competitor? Now, for me, as I said earlier, it always goes back to offering value for money. Now, value for money, again, as I said earlier, it's relative to. It doesn't matter what's on your price tag. You can still offer value for money if you've got the most expensive product in the marketplace. Because if it does what it says and you're doing it right, then it's there. I mean, it is a big leap. It is a big leap to go from. I mean, we have products in our shops that we sell that are available only in our shops. So it's something that we explored on a slightly different level. In which case, we in that product we did want to look like we were part of everything else. Our branding was unique to that, and it was let's be part of everything else, because we want to make the message with our standard raw products. It's clear this is what our product is. For Pro Raw, it was a very, very different approach, and it was a lot of time put in, and like I say, a lot of consultations, and it's really about trying to make sure we get this right.
So, but you're not making this in your garage, though.
I'm not making this in my garage, no.
People do start like that with a grinder, and that's what I think. Wow, you know, that's like a big. To me, that's
huge. Yeah. And I mean, we've got. I was going to say friendly competitors local to us and our businesses that started that very way, and it's huge respect to them to actually rolling your sleeves up and doing it. And I dare say it was something that probably given a bit more space. Maybe in Essex I'm a little bit limited on free space I have, but maybe given a bit more space I might have done it myself. But again, with Pro Raw, we knew it couldn't. we didn't want to have a product that anyone had a reason to question. It had to be a premium product, and it had to be out of a premium manufacturing facility. We couldn't be cutting a corner on something like that. We couldn't be trying to get it right ourselves. This had to be perfect, and it has to be perfect when it launches. So yeah, we sort of jumped in at the deep end a little bit on that one.
And did you just approach a company then? Did you have any idea, that this was...
I'm trying to make sure what I say so that I'm not in breach of contract anywhere, but no, it was a company that I was familiar with. It was a company that I was aware of their products, but yeah, it was a cold approach. It was literally, I knew if we were going to be doing this, it had to be premium, and it had to be a premium company that we went to, and we had some really good, quite long, in-depth conversations about it. And it is a product that I wouldn't let be made anywhere. And it was really once they were kind enough to give us a tour of their facilities and show us how they do things and the ingredients that are going into their own products. That gave me the faith. And that sort of came first a little bit, and why I decided to suddenly put this into action, because I had the belief in the manufacturing. And I said, these are people that will be able to support what we're trying to do. And this is the type of place that if we do this, I want it to be made in. So yeah, it was a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, so talking about in terms of opening pet businesses, we go back to kind of doing them. A lot of people that work in the natural care field, like yourself and myself, we do this because we just totally love what we're doing, and it can feel like you get this creative idea, you go off and you rush with it, and you start a business with it. And in like what you were saying about your first shop, you sort of started the wrong way around a little bit and had to find your feet in that way. I don't know if some of us can feel like, we launch and then we're like, oh, maybe I should have done a business plan, or maybe I should have done, thought about this in hindsight. Like, what sort of hindsighty stuff because I'm guessing did you do a kind of projection and business plan?
With the first shop, honestly, no, that's it. My bank manager won't like me saying that, but no. It was more of a case of having a. I think if we're any of us are real about things, on our second shop, the third shop with the brand, yes, we worked through business plans. For me, business plans are great, and this is my personal word on this. And again, whether I'd want my bank manager listening to this conversation or not, it's a different thing. I think business plans are.
We'll block him.
Yeah, block him. Shout him down on Facebook. I'll give you his name. Business plans are something to more draw a picture of what you'd like to be doing, but equally, how often do they actually stay true? I mean, it's great for having goals. I honestly believe they're fantastic for setting yourself targets and making sure that you're at a certain point. Above and beyond that, it's all a little bit finger in the air stuff on these projections. You've got to have an idea of how much you need to be taking to break even, how much you need to be taking to employ a member of staff, how much you need to be taking to earning profit out of it, how much you need to be taking to earn your wage. When we're talking about shops as well, we've got a few variables in there which also make it fun. Obviously, we've already mentioned the margins on certain products are not as much as they are on others. So we then have to, me personally, I will split my sales down into my food sales and into my retail accessory sales and things like that to know I've got my different margins. And we target the shops quite differently on them. And we say, right, we're falling short here, or we're doing well here. So we have to break it down. But for me, business plans, like I say, they work for targets. And that's where I think the strength of a business plan is. But I don't know, maybe I do too much in my head without putting it down on paper sometimes as well. And I think that is something that I'm guilty of, and going forwards as we're expanding, it's something that I'm having to be a bit more aware of.
Well, I think sometimes you are your business, really, and this is what the potential is kind of about as well, is finding your alignment and getting your aha moments. You know, if you're anything like me, driving along sometimes and you get an idea, and by the time you get to your destination, you know what you're going to next do in the next stage of your business. And then, but you've got to do what you got to your destination for, and then you get back home, and then you eat your meal, and then, you know, life carries on, and you know you're going to do it, but you just haven't written it down.
Massively, yeah, huge. You never know what, I mean, from even obviously when we have the design side of the brand. My background was in audio engineering, so I did a lot of creative stuff with music. And then even now we're in the design side of things. So I'm fortunate enough that I get to scratch the itch on that as well with that side of the business. And it was always something that I wanted to do, but it was trying to find a way to apply it, which I can do with the brand. And very much, like you say, inspiration will come when you're not expecting it or when you don't necessarily want it in your head. But sometimes it's about, I mean, I carry generally a notepad with me anywhere I go. We're lucky enough now that we've got phones that we can note things down on really quickly. And I'm very much, once that idea is in my head, I need to find a way to do something about it. Otherwise, it's quite difficult for me to put it back in the box sometimes and move on to something else. But you've got to grab that bit of inspiration when it comes. And I think too often people let these things go. They have what they want to do, and they have these little moments of inspiration, and too many, whether it's outside interferences or self-doubt, they let these things go, and they don't follow through on it, or they don't fully explore it at the very least. Even if you're not going to do it yourself, why are we not looking into it? Why are we not trying to do the maths on it? Why are we not trying to see, can this be? I always hear people tell me what they'd love to do as a job. So why are we not exploring it? And I had jobs. I was a mortgage advisor. I sold cars. I've done this, and it was taking that leap. And it's not easy. It's not easy making that leap. But once you start balancing out your quality of life and the reward and the satisfaction you get from your work life, it starts making sense really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And then it's about trying to, let's be frank, it's about trying to monetize your passions and make sure that you can actually earn a living out of doing something you love.
Yeah, absolutely. But and also helping others as well, because like you said with your staff, you know, you're really providing a job that's rewarding for them as well.
Yeah, and I'm quite keen and taking, I was going to say youngsters on. I used to be a youngster myself once. Giving youngsters a chance as well, and we've tried to do that and tried to always make sure that we're supporting people that are wanting to come through and get into the industry, and that's key for us as well. Because even looking back, I think when I was that age, I wish I'd have had someone put their arm around me and help me into the industry I want. So I'm very much for giving back and trying to make sure we support that, because it is a lovely industry to work in, and if we can support people in being able to take home a living and also do a job they love, yeah, it's great to be able to try and enable that for people as well.
So I'm wondering, because you started in a premises that you already had to begin with, did you already have members of staff, or was there just you to begin with? Were you
there was literally me. When we first started, it was me. I couldn't afford fittings. I'd spent most of my money on the money that I had available, which wasn't a lot, on a freezer for raw food, one freezer, and a sign. And realistically, everything else, the window lettering was stuff I bought off eBay for cheap. My fittings, I couldn't afford retail level fittings. I had literally IKEA wardrobe shelves without the doors and rails in them and drawers in them. They were literally wardrobes without doors on. And that was how we started, because that was what I could afford. And yeah, it was me sitting in a shop with a till, which was the cheapest one I could get from the cash and carry down the road, and sitting in it feels a long time ago, and it was sitting in a shop half hoping that someone's going to come in, but then going, we've got to go and get this business. What are we going to do that's different? And yeah, we were fortunate, as I said earlier, that Facebook was quite a powerful tool at that time as well.
So taking on your first member of staff, if there's somebody out there, one-man band at the moment, you know, thinking on, you know, could they, should they, how do they go about it? Like, what's the sort of protocol and procedure there?
I mean, for us, really, the key, yeah, it's a bit of a scary time. I was lucky enough that at the start, I had good support from my family, which literally at the time was, would you mind coming in and helping me this afternoon? I've got some website orders to pack up. I've got this to do, would you mind coming and helping? And I would always say I was fortunate with the help that I had from family. I'm lucky with that. So I didn't need staff for the shop at the time. It was me. But saying that I didn't need staff in the shop at the time, that meant that I was sitting there 6 days a week.
Yeah.
That meant that I had to commit to that, and I had to accept that. And even then, I made quite a key thing of, if I sold one product, I would replace it with two. I had to increase my stock holding, so I'd sell one, replace it with two. And it was hard, but that's how I was fortunate enough to have family support for that. When we first took on a member of staff, it was for, been saying for a long time that we wanted to put grooming in there. We got asked for it. I think people assumed we should have it. But for me, on the products that we sold and the way we were going with our if it was to the standard and would reflect the quality that we're offering elsewhere in the business. And again, luck more than judgment. We'd put out adverts. I'd had unsuccessful interviews. I couldn't find anyone that would fit that mold. And I was lucky enough that literally we had a conversation between us as a family, and I said, I need to go and find myself a groomer. Literally walked out of my office into the shop space, and a girl walked in through the door with her standard poodle that she'd groomed the day before. And I think I probably scared the life out of her by saying to her, who grooms that dog? It was stunning. It was her CV walking in on a lead. And I said to her, who groomed this dog? I need to know where your groomer is. And I was fortunate enough that she said to me, I groomed the dog. And so one thing led to another, and within 2 weeks we had half the shop demolished and a grooming area built and everything set up for her. And I suppose as a business owner, it was a little bit scary for me, because I'd had businesses before where we'd had staff before, but they were businesses that I'd gone into when they were already established and the staff were already there. So at this point, it was a case of suddenly I've got someone's welfare and their financial, and their family is suddenly dependent on me as well. And it's really scary. And that's even me, as you said, I think I've got quite a fair level of self-belief and confidence, but even for me, it was this moment. Suddenly this person was dependent on how well my business succeeds, which was still relatively in its infancy then. And we were lucky enough, we had someone who was also wanting to be part of it. Again, they wanted to be part, they could see our vision and they wanted to be part of that, which is key. And yeah, she's still with us now, like 4 years later. And yeah, so it was key to have, we were lucky in that sense. But I would always say, when you're very early on in your business, if you are a one-man band, and it's really difficult, but when you're looking at taking on a member of staff, it's got to be for the right reasons, and you've got to make sure that what do they bring to the table. It sounds harsh, but you can't just support people if they're not giving something back. And for us, it was grooming. It brought in a new revenue stream. It gave us something new that was, so for us it was a relatively easy decision. But I think this is where sometimes companies can run into trouble. They think sometimes people get maybe the idea that they think having a member of staff takes the weight off them. It's a bit of a misconception, I think, because at the end of the day, no, you are your business. You were right when you said it earlier, and people still come into the shops, and if I'm not there and I haven't got the time to give to them, there's a level of sort of disappointment about that, which is why I'm having to now split my time between the shops and make sure our customers have their face time. And I know I don't ever want that to be different. I still want to make sure that me, or even a close member of my family who are all on the same page as me now, we're there for the customers. It's very much a personal experience, because if you're not offering a personal experience at an independent level, they can just as easily go to one of the big boys, and sometimes more conveniently. So where are we different? It's about having that hands-on time and spending that time with the customer. And even we encourage our groomers to do the same. We're not a business that they groom the dogs and then we hand them over. We want our customers to know our groomers. We want them to have a good relationship with them, and that's key for us. And we make sure all of our groomers and all of our staff in the shop, they are customer facing and they are talking to people and we are interacting. And we always say we want to be friends with our customers. We don't want our customers just to come in and feel we're taking money off them. We want to be there for them and we want to support them. So it's a give and take relationship as well there.
Yeah, no, well, I think that's really important. It is, you know, and for some reason I do seem to still remember names of dogs and owners that from years back, you know, like it's interesting when you're passionate about something, you do seem to have that memory more about it, I think. So in terms of like on a sort of logical basis, like to take on staff, if they're not self-employed and billing you for their time, which the groomer may have been, I don't know. I mean, is there like a registration process? How would you even go about doing that?
I'll be honest with you, a lot of that I pass over to my accountants now. But when we first started, we were fortunate enough that our groomers were self-employed, because they had work at other places, and we made our vision clear, and then they worked with us. They worked with us part-time to start with, so they were self-employed for that side of things. Now we're into PAYE territory. That's one I hand over to my accountants.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably the best way around it then.
It's a minefield, and even my closest friend is high up in a recruitment agency, and it's a minefield though. And I would always say to make sure that you're protecting yourself and you're protecting your staff. If we're not in a level where we're on a self-employed basis, it's got to be done right, because at the end of the day, if you don't do these things right, and that's why I'm very much key, and I'm probably not giving you the right information on here from actual tell people how to do it, but I always seek third-party advice on this, because at the end of the day, you've got to protect yourself as a business owner, but your staff equally need the same protection, and they need the same level of cover. And I believe, again, if you don't offer them that, then they've got insecurity. You want them to have a security, and you want them to feel comfortable in their job. So yeah, I that's one I pass over to my accountants, to be honest with you.
No, it makes sense. Totally makes sense. Yeah. Well, this has been so interesting. It's brilliant. Thank you so much. I don't know if you realised just how much you'd end up being able to tell me about your businesses.
No, I didn't think there was that much to tell at the start, but yeah.
No, there always is so many questions. I mean, I know myself from running businesses and from watching in the different groups of different petpreneur groups, and you know the kind of questions that come up. So I really hope for everyone watching that you've got something from this. And also, if you have any more questions, I'm sure you can post them underneath this video, and Rob can head over and answer. So I'll just set him up for that now.
Yeah.
There's not going to be too many, I'm sure. We've covered so much. It's been absolutely fantastic. And myself especially, I hope to meet some of you at our meetup day on June the 2nd in Buxton in Derbyshire, and you'll see underneath this video there will be some links to get your early bird tickets as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of Potential. And thank you to Rob.